welcome back everyone to another daily Marvel Snap video. I'm GemmachineEsq. Thank you for joining me. Today we're doing something a little different. I normally don't do these type of videos, we keep it to gameplay, but there's been quite a few leaks recently, and so I thought we'd do a data mine card review. So we are going to check out some data mine cards. There's actually quite a few of them, so we'll probably break it into a few videos. We'll probably try to get 10 done this video. I'm going to try to have cards that I think will go good with this, with good synergies and things like that, and we'll get into it. And I want you in the comments below, tell me what decks you think this will be good in, and if you're excited about these cards, just overall feelings on these cards. Maybe I'm excited about one that you think's going to be trash. Maybe I think one's going to be trash. You guys are excited about it. Absolutely, let me know. As always, guys, you have been killing it, so continue to smash that like button and watch the videos and comment below and subscribe and all of that good stuff. If we do get to 100 subscribers, we're at 63 right now. Actually, speaking of which, let me pull up Jose Lopez and Miguel Andres. Thank you so much for the comments and the subscription. I really do appreciate it. It helps us out greatly. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You make the 63 subscriber. And with that, we are 37 away from hitting 100 and doing a fan video where we play fan decks only. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let us get into the decks. There are the cards, I should say. Let's start off with the first one. And here we go. We're actually starting off with a card that does not have a front yet and does not have any type of design. However, we do know it's going to be a 6/5 currently. It is Annihilus, which is a very strong character in the Marvel Universe. He has the description of an on-reveal effect. Each of your cards randomly chooses a location to move to. Honestly, I look at this card. This is obviously a brand new data leak. We don't even have a picture for it. And I have major concerns about it. It has the words move in it, so instantly your head goes to move deck, but like, is this really ever better than Heimdall? I guess this allows you to play in, you know, in more variety of ways with the move deck, because you can, you know, you don't have to play for that left location. You can actually play in the left location and then have your cards go everywhere. But I guess my fear is, like, since it's random, can they move to the same location that they're currently... I feel like we just don't know enough about the card, how it works, and that sort of thing. But overall, I think as a 6/5, it's pretty weak. And there aren't many great uses outside of a move deck. Like, in most decks, you're running cards in a specific location for a reason. And to randomly move them, I feel like, is not going to give you a ton of benefit most of the time. There could be some edge cases, but I can't think of any right now. So if you can think of any for Annihilus, let me know. We're probably pretty far away from seeing this card, though. So let's get to the next card. And welcome back. And in the previous video, I forgot to talk about the cards that went well with it. They were obviously move cards, but we should have had them on there below, so I hope you got to see them. But we're moving on to the next card, which is the Black Knight. I've seen a few videos on this one, actually, so it's been known to the community for a little bit. It is a 1/2 right now, and it has a description of when this card is destroyed, you get to draw a card. And this makes it a pretty interesting card in Marvel Snap, and that's because we don't actually have a lot of mechanisms in the game right now that allow you to draw a card. Now, there's a few that allow your opponent to do it, with the Maximus, even Baron Mordo allow it. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is Adam Warlock. So, because of that, we have to think of what decks really benefit from drawing cards. I'd say the Mr. Negative deck is pretty great. So you want to draw a card with that, so you could play this. You could play Mr. Negative on 4, and then on 5 try to destroy this card. But a lot of times you're playing Sarah on that turn, and you're not wanting. You don't run many destroy cards in a Mr. Negative deck. Sometimes you run Killmonger with the negative Surfer decks. So maybe you could do something like that. If you have Nova on the field and then Black Knight and you destroy, you get to draw an extra card. But really, destroy decks themselves don't really want to draw. Like, because most of the time, if you think about the Death Wave deck that's popular now, you have Death, Leader, She-Hulk, Arrow. You can even throw Null in there. Like, they already have so many great late game options. You're almost guaranteed to have one of them in your hand. So it's nice having another 1-drop to think about, because I think Nova's a little lackluster in his current form. But I'm trying to think of... There's some Devil Dino lists that run a destroy package, I think this would probably be the best in that. So you run something like Killmonger and Carnage or Deathlock. You can pick two, I'd say. Run Black Knight in there and run something like Winter Soldier Nova and get some destructions out, and then be able to play Double Dino later, and this allows you to draw into a card, obviously making your Dino bigger. I think that's not a terrible idea, so I'm not too excited about this card. I don't think it's going to shake anything up, but I think it'll be a nice addition to this game. Absolutely. Alright, and welcome back, and we have our third card we're taking a look at here, and it is Blink. Blink is a 3/1 card, so already thinking Mr. Negative stat line, and it says you can move this each turn when it moves +1 power. Okay, so probably not a Mr. Negative because you actually want to get it on the field early. This is actually on a card. And what's interesting is it doesn't say when it moves of its own power. So it's definitely a move deck card. You want to put it in with obviously a lot of other move cards. With Cloak, it's going to be great. With Heimdall, it's going to be great. Even maybe with Annihilus, this could be a card that would benefit from Annihilus we were talking about before. And you're going to want to get this card out on turn 3. It's sort of like Bishop in that manner. It even has the same stat line as Bishop, so they're definitely thinking it's around that power level. And every turn you're going to move it at least once. But if you can move it on turn, let's say 4, and then maybe get a Doctor Strange or a Cloak, that's another move, plus move it at the end of its own turn, so that could be +2 on the second turn. So by turn 4, you could, or turn 5, it could already be a 3/3. On turn 6, maybe you could get it up to a 3/5, and then move it one more time, and then with a Heimdall. So like we're talking probably a 3/7, 3/8, which isn't a terrible stat line, but I think it's going to be pretty hard to do. A little underwhelming as it is, but there might be some synergies because I don't play a lot of move that I'm not thinking of. Obviously, if you could play it with something like with an Iron Fist, or something like that, it could be interesting. But it seems expensive, and it seems like it's pretty... Honestly, you know what it does is it seems like a worse version of Human Torch, that it can't be Killmongered, though. That's the benefit to it. So really, not too excited about this card, but I don't love move. If you love move out there, you can think of some great synergies out there, let me know in the comments. And welcome back, and for our fourth card, we have the Blob, and he is a big chonkers. The Blob is a ongoing card, and nothing can move him to another location. He is a 3/4, so he's Cyclops, but without the invulnerability. And his power can be changed, I guess, but he is another ongoing card to fit into that, and nothing can move him to another location. So, counters Magneto, I guess, a bit, but he's only a 3/4 stat line, and, like, this just kind of runs into... The problem is, I watch a lot of Jeff Hogland. I'm sure you guys know that by now. I posted out a video. And he often, when he's putting cards into a deck, he asks, what does this, like, what problem does this card solve? And my honest opinion is, what problem does the Blob solve? Does the ongoing deck have a problem with its cards being moved around? Maybe Warpath's being disrupted? But he'll still be disrupted. This isn't going to be the only 3 cost you play, right? Like, you might play a Cosmo, you might play an Armor. Like, there's other cards that can be moved. Even Warpath himself can be moved. Claw can be moved. Like, so I don't know. I don't know what problem this card is solving, and at a 3/4 cost line, kind of underwhelming to me. So, again, I actually love the ongoing archetype, but this card, it doesn't speak to me. So... I think it'll fit well in a normal type of deck. We can show it below some of the cards it might have synergy with, but as of right now, I don't know. And welcome back. And next, we have our 5th card, which is Bullseye. Sorry, I'm weird. Is Bullseye, which is actually a pretty cool comic book character. Now, his card, though, I find a little underwhelming. And it is that he's a 1/2, so it's a 1-drop. So I do like more 1-drops in the game. I think the game could use a little more 1-drops, a little more variety there. And unrevealed, the next card you draw will be a 2-cost card, if any are left. Now, because there is the text, if any are left, this is not like a shield card, right? This is very clearly, it's going to draw a 2-cost card that exists in your deck. So it's not like you can't play no 2-card cost and get a random one. You have to have 2 cards in your deck, and based on that, what I am thinking this card is really good for is if there's a really, really powerful 2-drop that you really want to get out early, you can guarantee it coming out on turn 2. Obviously, if Bullseye's in your starting hand. Now, Bullseye himself doesn't give a lot of power, so you're gonna want quite a bit of power from that 2-drop. And of all of the powerful 2-drops in the game, you have things like Scorpion, you have things like Agatha, are things that I initially thought of. But really, 2-drops aren't the most powerful things in the game. So, Cable could be an interesting for like a Devil Dino deck, because he is a nice 2-drop. The Collector for a Devil Dino deck. But I don't know. I can't think of any 2-drops where I can think of where if I draw that on turn 2, I'm gonna win the game. So again, you asked myself the same thing I did with the Blub. What deck does this solve a problem for? And I can't really think of one. Maybe discard, actually. Discard because you really want to get Morbius out? Is that the only 2 cost you have in your deck? I think it might be. So maybe Bullseye pulls Morbius out. Might be a decent idea. You obviously don't really care if this card gets discarded, so it's actually a decent hit to get discarded. But I really can't think of another 2-drop where it's like, I need to get this card out. And so I think his play is going to be limited, but I don't think this is a bad card. I'm actually a little excited to play around with it. Maybe there's a card out there I'm forgetting about. That'd be really nice to make sure it was always in your hand. But I think with Bullseye, you're really going to run a 1/1 2-drop. That's kind of the point. Up next, everyone, we have Elsa Bloodstone. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the next one. I think this is the 6th card. We're doing the Dazzler. Now, I've saw a few videos on this. Dazzler's a 4/4, so already thinking Zabu. Since Zabu's coming out. But she is a 4/4 ongoing. If you have 4 cards at every location, this card gets 6 power. So, here's an interesting thing. So it's actually very similar to Strongman, where its stat line is 4/4, but it gets 6. Strong Guy is if you have nothing in your hand. This is if you have 4 cards at every location. And both of those things actually happen quite frequently together, right? That you have... you've unloaded everything from your hand or discarded everything in your hand, and you've played a lot of cards on the board. So I think Zoo's going to work really well with this. Ultron, obviously very good with this. Probably the best with it because it almost guarantees it outside of someone killmongering. So I'm going to think a lot of people run Strong Guy and Blade. In a lot of Zoo-type decks, I think Dazzler might fit in to some Pool 3 Zoo decks, where instead of having to force that Blade in there, you play Dazzler and then an Ultron. And that's a guaranteed 10 power in one location. If you have Blue Marvel, it's 11 power. It's actually quite strong. So, there's a lot of other cards that probably work with this, like Doctor Doom. Obviously, it's not quite as good as Ultron. You could run it in decks where you're doing the Wong with the White Tigers, maybe for a little more consistency with that deck, right? If you get 1 or 2 White Tiger or Tiger clones out, plus the Doctor Doom, you're looking at a pretty full thing there. It could add some consistency to that deck. The problem with that deck in any rank above like 70 or 80 is people are just waiting for it, right? They have the Cosmo, they have the Enchantress, they have the Arrow, they have the Magneto. You are not getting that play done. But honestly, with Dazzler, it doesn't really matter so much as long as there are cards on the board. So, I mean, it's still an unexpected 10 power that you could throw down on turn 6. And you would have a 2-drop that you could play also. Or you could put it down early and really be threatening it the whole game, though it does kind of give the game away. Once you put Dazzler on the field, people know what your end game goal is. And a 4/4 by itself, not very good. And the reason I'm scrolling down is I am using Snap Zone. For the record, if you're wondering where I'm getting this information. And sometimes they have recommended cards, so things like Mojo and Debris look good. So, and I'd agree with those. So pretty interesting stuff right there. I actually am pretty excited for Dazzler. Also, Bloodstone, this is the 7th card. She is a 1/1, but every time a turn ends and you are winning this location, she gets +1 power. So, with no other buffs, if you play her on turn 1 and are winning that location every round, she becomes a 1/7? That's pretty nuts, right? That's as strong as Ebony Maw. And Ebony Maw has that downside of you can't play anything there. She obviously doesn't have that. Also, it's not an ongoing effect or an on-reveal, so it can't be stopped. In addition, when you buffer up with things like Kazar, it's going to be easier to win that location. your ideal play line is probably going to be something like Elsa Bloodstone, Armor, maybe like a Lizard or something with high power. Guarantee you just want to keep ramping that location, ramping that location, ramping that location. And, I mean, your biggest problem is going to be you're going to want to play so heavily from that lane, you could let the other two get away from you. I could see that being a problem, but I think she's an interesting archetype to bring into a zoo deck, and I'm pretty excited to play with Elsa Bloodstone. I think Elsa will add a lot to the zoo. It's still going to have the same weaknesses that all zoo characters do, and that's just that Killmonger's coming. Also, if she ever gets above 9, she can be Shang-Chi'd, which is crazy to think about as a 1-drop, but it's definitely possible with her ability. If you play her and then put like a Hulkbuster or any kind of power addition to her, it's just going to be nuts. But she's definitely a card that gets weaker throughout the game, right? You're not going to want to draw her 3 or 4 turns in. You want her on turn 1. Outside of that, she's not the greatest. Though really, even if she gets a 3 or 4 strength, still a pretty good card. So actually, of the cards we've looked at to this date, Elsa Bloodstone, I think, is the closest I can see as being S tier. Welcome, guys, to one of my favorite visual arts for a card. It's Flatman, who has the ongoing ability of adjacent locations get +1. He's a 2/2. He is a worse Mr. Fantastic. Kind of underwhelming. Mr. Fantastic costs 3. He has 2 power, adds 2 to every location, so he's a 3 cost. That gets you 6 power. This is a 2 cost who gets you 4 power. Is there a good combination? If you played him on 2 and Mr. Fantastic on 3, you'd be adding 3 power to both locations and have 4 power in the middle location. So you're playing it in middle. That 3 power is never going to be enough to win a location by itself. So even if you throw in a thing like Claw that's 9, I don't know that this solves a problem with ongoing decks. I don't know it solves any problem. So to me, I look at it like, why would I want to play this above Mr. Fantastic? And the answer is, well, it's a 2 cost. Well, it's a 2 cost that's giving me 2 less power. So I'm not sure. I love the art. I think it's great art. I love the art on this card. I think it looks super campy, and I kind of love that. But I think this might need to be looked at. Like this, if it's only going to add 1 power to each location, I think it might need to be a 2/3. And I know that's what I know. Mr. Fantastic's a 3/2, but what you're doing, making it a 2/3, will be, well, this card is playing more for the location you're in and less for the outer ones. Mr. Fantastic's the opposite, right? So it becomes the opposite of Mr. Fantastic. And then when you play those two together, they kind of make a cool combination of putting 5 in the one location and then 3 in the outer ones. It's like, well, that's not a terrible lane then. But as it stands right now, underwhelmed, except for the art. I love the art. The art's amazing. Keep the art. Absolutely fantastic. Let's get to the next one, guys. We've looked at 8 cards so far, according to my count, so this should be the 9th, and it is one I am super excited for. And also, let's talk about the art on this one. Ghost looks fucking amazing. It reminds me of the Ultron art just a little bit, but I find that okay. I think this card looks absolutely incredible. It's another 1-drop, so they're releasing a lot of 1-drops, which I kind of like. She is an ongoing card. Your cards are always revealed last. I saw someone review this card. I can't remember. Oh, it was actually Malt. If you guys don't know Malt, check out Malt YouTube. He is great. He loves move decks, so he's the opposite of me. So go check out Malt. But he was reviewing this card, and he's like, he couldn't really think of a reason for that. Malt, that is because you do not play zoo decks. And she fits into a zoo deck. Obviously, she's a 1 cost. What Ghost does is you play her on... you play her ideally on turn 3, 4, or 5. It all depends on when you have your Khazar Blue Marvel out, if you get those, hopefully. And what she does is she means you can't be Killmongered on turn 6. So you don't want to play this card super early, because then the enemy can just Killmonger on turn 4 or 5, because you'll see it coming. But if you play this on turn 4 or 5, you're not giving the enemy a lot of time to react, to play that Killmonger. You play most of your 1-drops on turn 6 in pool 3 anyway. So on turn 6, you're going to be playing something like, Squirrel Girl or Ultron, or that's when you're going to get all of your 1-drops. And if you reveal second, you can never, ever be Killmongered. That's going to be absolutely incredible. And she's going to have other uses too. You can't be Shang-Chi'd if you reveal last. You can't be... I'm sorry. what I should say is your Shang-Chi will always hit if you reveal last, your Enchantress will always hit if you reveal last. What it is going to counter is actually Cosmo. Right, if you play Ghost, you cannot play Cosmo, because Cosmo will never work on that turn, because the opponent will always reveal first. But if you're playing a type of tech card that needs to see what it's hitting, aka Enchantress or Shang-Chi, this card will be a decent card to throw into any deck like that. So I'm thinking like Sarah decks, I'm thinking Zoo decks. I think this card's going to see a lot of play. Ghost is very cool at a 1/2 stats line. She's right in line with where she should be, but her description, her effect, is an ongoing effect, and I think it's slightly broken, to be honest. She is an ongoing card, so do you want to play her in an ongoing deck? You could play her with armor, but thinking about it, like, you want your armor to reveal first, you want your Cosmo to reveal first, you want your Spectrum to reveal first, because you don't want it to get Cosmoed. So I'm not, she is an ongoing card. I don't think you play her in ongoing lists, but I think she's probably going to find herself home in tech heavy and control heavy deck lists, but very importantly in Zoo lists, where you're not going to be able to Killmonger Zoo anymore. Thank God Zoo finally has an answer for turn 6 Killmonger. So there we go. Awesome card. Definitely S tier. 10th card of today, we are looking at Ghost Spider, also known as Spider-Gwen, also known as Gwen Spider, also known as a lot of other names in the comic books, but she is a 2/2 on reveal. Move the last card you played here, and finally, I think this card adds so much to the move archetype, and it might finally get me to play move. The problem with the move archetype, to me, Iron Fist moves the next card you play. Doctor Strange moves only the highest power card on the field. Cloak is the closest thing, I think, to a really good move card, where you can move anything you want to that location, but so can your opponent. So unless you have Kraven on the field, that could actually backfire. It creates almost like a New York situation, the location, where it's a little bit of a guessing game. Gwen Spider, you play something like Iron Fist into Vulture or into your Human Torch, and that moves, and then the next turn you play Ghost Spider, and then it moves it again, and that is awesome. So you create a really cool 1, 2, 3 punch, where you can do something like on turn 1, play your Ironheart, on turn 2, play something like your Human Torch, and maybe like a, well, you play something like, Human Torch. On turn 3, you can play Ghost Spider and maybe another 1-drop. Maybe you play Nightcrawler or something like that. I think this is going to add an absolute ton to move decks. I'm actually really excited to play this card. I'm hoping it changed the move archetype to me, which never appealed to me, but now I'm thinking it might. Ghost Spider, super hyped for. We're going to cover 5 more cards to make 15, so stay tuned for those. Alright guys, we are talking now about the Goblin Queen, which, by the way, this art style is very different from the ones I've been complimenting in the past, like the Flatman and stuff like this, but this is very much, I think, a gorgeous, artistically drawn piece. I think it's very dark and gothic and edgy in ways that it should be. I think you see like a broken Colossus in the bottom right. You see like some severed heads. You see Domino going on the bottom. Very, very edgy piece. Very cool. It's a 2/3, so slightly stronger than some of the other 2-drops we've seen on revealed. On reveal, it says other cards can't be revealed this turn. So it's a card that gives you that Lemuria effect. And it's a cool idea. It's a very cool idea. I actually like cards that give temporary location buffs. And so this is one of them. Or even cards like Invisible Woman, which gives like a... oh, it's not Dream Dimension. I can't think of it. The one that hides your cards the entire game. But 2/3, so it's strong by itself in fairness. But I'm trying to think of what deck doesn't really want their cards doesn't want their cards revealed on turn. Other cards can't be revealed this turn. So other cards, so it might be your opponent's cards too, now that I'm reading it. So maybe if it's like, you know, a Wong is coming, or if you like... And what happens if you play this on turn 6? If you play this on turn 6, do their cards not reveal? Like, I have questions. Like, I think this could be a really cool card. Like, or if they play Wong and you don't have your Cosmo yet, but you have a Cosmo in your deck, and so you just need another turn to draw it before that White Tiger comes down, maybe you play this card, and it gives you that extra turn so they won't get the on reveal until you get the Cosmo down. That could be a cool idea. So it's a kind of a cool tech card in that way. You can't play it on turn 2 to hide your own cards because it's other cards this turn can't be revealed. So you're always going to want to play this first. So you play it, let's say it's 4, you play this in another 2-drop. What 2-drop are you going to want to hide? Like, I find it tough to think about cards that you want to hide. Like, there's some niche scenarios, sure, where I think that's not a terrible idea. Maybe, like, you hide a Killmonger, right? It's turn 5, you play this and then Killmonger. Like, that could be kind of funny. But, yeah, I just don't know. I think it's better as a tech card to control your opponents. It gives you that extra turn to counter. Or maybe you think you're getting Professor X, right? But you have initiative, so you play this. So the Professor X doesn't reveal until next turn. That's actually kind of cool. Yeah, so I really like this as a tech card, actually. I think it's going to counter a lot of things like Professor X, Storm, Wong. Wong needs some help, guys. Here's another card that, they played Wong, and I can't counter it this turn. No White Tiger for you. You have to wait a turn. If you don't draw the card you want on turn 5, you just retreat. So, Goblin Queen, looking kind of cool. Actually, excited. The more I talked myself into it, the more I talked about it, the more I liked it. I like it. The 12th card we're looking at today is Gwenpool. This is Gwenpool. She is a 2/1, so she is well behind curve in her power. On reveal, double this card's power. So it's very much a Deadpool type of card. But it's Gwenpool, obviously. But it has the idea, same actual on reveal as Black Panther, same exact one. So, what are the ways we could think to use this? I'm immediately thinking about a bounce deck, but Falcon doesn't work. But Beast does, so you could do something. Play this card, play Beast, play it again. Now you're talking about a 3 cost, because 2 for the first one, then 1 for the second one after Beast. And it will be a 3 cost 4. Better, but not great, so you're going to have to find ways to buff this. So you play it on turn 2, give it Hulkbuster, then Beast it. Like, you could Forge it, and then Beast, like... But Forge would actually give it 3, so it would become a 2/6. So if you play Forge and then this card, it becomes a 2/6, then you Arnim Zola it. It's sort of like a Black Panther, and it could become a 2/12, which is actually crazy. The question is, are you wasting Arnim Zola on that? And probably not. But the fact that you can get a 2/6 pretty easily, right? So all it takes is this and Forge, or Forge and then play this. Not terrible. Then throw a Hulkbuster on it, then maybe Beast. This could be added to a bounce deck the more I'm thinking about it. And you throw Forge in there. And maybe, you know what, we were talking about Bullseye earlier. What 2-drop do you really want to have on 2? This one. So maybe this works really well with Bullseye. I'm thinking this could be a really cool combo. It definitely needs Forge. It definitely maybe needs Hulkbuster. Probably needs Beast because you're going to want to play it more than once. But because it has no innate way of getting back into your hand, like it doesn't have, if this card doubles, bring it back to your hand or something like that. It doesn't have, you need other cards to make it work. So because you need other cards to make it work, I don't think it's going to be that great. As a 2/2, it's not very good. As a 2/6, it's a very good. The question is, how far can you scale it? I don't think it has too high of a ceiling. It reminds me of the Collector a little bit, where I think you're going to reliably be able to get it to 2/4, maybe 2/6, but I don't think it's going to get much higher than that. So it's probably going to sit in that Collector range of, it's good to tech in when you can, when it fits, but probably not going to build around this card. We got this 13th card we're looking at, and it is Hit Monkey, with a banana in his name, making it rather hard to read, but I am assuming it's Hit Monkey. He's a 2/0. Okay, Mr. Negatives, let's see what you got. On reveal, gain 3 power for each card you played this turn. Holy fuck. Okay, so this card will not be released in this manner, I can almost guarantee it. Because what you're going to do is you're going to run it in a Mr. Negative deck. Then you're going to play Jane Foster, you're going to draw Ironheart, Iron Man, and this card all for 0 cost. That is a guaranteed 9 power for 0 cost, plus the Ironheart buff, plus the Iron Man buff, so that's kind of like the high roll. Even if you don't do that, you run it in a Sarah deck, and you can probably play 6 cards on that final turn, making this a 1 cost, because Sarah. And 6 times 3 is 18. So making this a 118. I mean, Silver Surfer is busted because it gives other 3-drops +3. This card is saying, fuck it, I'm just going to get +3 for every card I put. This combined with Bishop, absolutely fucking forget about it. You're going to be putting down 20 power in 2 different locations. Absolutely crazy, absolutely absurd. Will not release like this. If it does, it will. Normally, I don't like when people say this because we have no idea. Like, it's impossible to talk about this. But we know that you draw 75% of your cards in Marvel Snap, so you have a 75% chance of having this by turn 6. If you get Sarah out, again, 75% of the time on turn 5, you will get to play, as long as you build your deck correctly, most likely 5 or 6 cards on turn 5, which will make this a 118 or a 218 at its original cost, which is the strongest card of the game. Pure power-wise. Is very susceptible to Shang-Chi and Cosmo, but besides that, stupid. Regime to Hydrate. Thank you, sir. So Hitmonkey, looking kind of crazy nuts. And welcome back to our 14th card, and it's Jean Grey, one of the original X-Men. Surprised this card isn't out yet. She is a 3/3. She's an on-reveal, and the next card your opponent played must be played here if possible. So think of it as almost a cheap arrow. Kind of good. Any card that makes your opponent, or it dictates your opponent's move, is very good. Looking at this card, what I'm really thinking about is its combinations. You want to think about all tech cards with their combinations like that. And I'm thinking you play this on 3, play Spider-Man on 4, play Professor X on 5. You can guarantee with 100% certainty that you're going to win that Professor X lane starting on turn 3. If you can't play it on 3, you play it on 4. You play it somewhere where you're not going to play your Professor X, then you Professor X that lane. You can guarantee your Professor X there. So I think it has amazing synergy with Professor X. I think it's a 3/3. It's not a terrible stat line, so it's going to get play no matter what. It's an on-reveal card. So the question is, if you double its ability, if you play it in something like Carmartage, does the next 2 cards have to be played there? Like, I don't know. Now, it does have the same weaknesses as other move-type card or dictating-type cards, where it's if possible, so if you fill a location, you don't have to worry about it anymore. But cards like this do scare me because they can be meta-shaping a little bit, just like Arrow is. But then there's also cards like Polaris that have a great stat line in 3/5, and they don't get played that much. So tough to say where this is going to land, but I am a little frightened that it's going to make Professor X even stronger than he is now. And he's already on the stronger side of gimmicky, so I think it might be a little tough. So we'll see how that goes. I think this plus Daredevil going to be a crazy combination, though. So, yeah, it basically dictates you winning a lane by turn 5. So I think it's going to be meta-shaping. But we'll see. It's tough to tell with these type of cards, but I think it's going to be strong. And finally, the 15th card today, and I think this should be in honor of the MCU as it is, we have Kang the Conqueror, who is a 5/0. Not a great stat line. What does he do? On reveal, look at what your opponent did, then restart the turn, but without Kang. So, restart the turn. So your opponent gets to replay too. I think Kane is sort of a novelty. I'm not gonna lie, I've seen this card before. He's been dead in mine for a little bit. Some people are saying he's gonna be nuts. I don't see it that way because your opponent gets just as much information, or he doesn't get it just as much, but he gets information just as much as you do. So you play this, and your opponent plays whatever big card he's gonna play on turn 5. Maybe you save this for turn 6. See whatever big card they're gonna play. Maybe it's like a Galactus or something like that, and you see the Galactus, then he has to replay in his hand, and then you can dictate how you're going to play around the Galactus. Maybe it allows you to retreat early. I think it'll be interesting how it plays around Professor X, because Professor X generally, nothing can be moved or changed about it. If you play the Professor X, will that get returned to your hand? I have a lot of questions about this card, but I think your opponent won't know what your plans are because Kang gets returned to your hand as well. So he doesn't know what other 5-drop you have or 6-drop or couple of 4-drops. He doesn't know. But I do think that he's probably going to have a good idea. I don't think this has the flexibility to be played in a variety of decks. I think it's going to find like a small niche deck, and once people figure out what that deck is, they'll have just as much information once they see the Kang as pretty much. So I wish I could say Kang really intrigues me because I really like those ultra powerful Marvel characters from the comics, but at a 5/0 and he doesn't actually ever get played, so he's like kind of a dead card in your hand, right? Because all you're paying, well, technically what he really is a 0/0, right? Because you get to replay the turn. I assume he doesn't go back in your hand because then you could just keep playing him and force a stalemate essentially. So I'm assuming he leaves your hand, but quite frankly, I just don't see the power of this card. Like, it's cool, you get to see, oh, he's going to play Professor X, or oh, he's going to play an Arrow, or whatever it is. And it's just like, but your opponent can change their move. They get to replay the turn too. So it's going to create a little bit of a mind game, which I do like. I do think that's cool. I think the more mind games in Marvel Snap, the better. That's part of the appeal of the game. I just think as a card that doesn't actually ever get played, quote unquote, because it's never going to be on the field, I'm just not excited about it. I like putting big numbers on the field. Kang kind of stops that, to be honest with you. So I don't think it's the biggest thing in the world. I don't like it personally. I think it might find a niche home in certain decks. Maybe like a Galactus deck. It actually might find in a ongoing deck. Surprisingly enough, to find out where you're Professor Xing. But overall, a little lackluster. Alright guys, now is the time of the video where I tell you all to like and subscribe and comment below. Tell me what cards I got wrong, tell me what cards I got right, tell me what decks you're going to build with these 15, and if I should do another tier list, or not tier list, but another video list. There are, looking at MarvelSnapZone.com, absolute tons of cards we could be looking at. They've data mined, I think it's over 50 cards. We looked at 15 today. Tell me which ones you want to see, which ones you're excited for. Tell me what I missed, what synergies I missed, what decks you're going to build again. As always guys, keep on snapping.